own like demiurge person.
Yeah. No, necessarily. I don't know.
Hello and welcome back to Mystic in the Machine. We are so sorry for being MIA for the last 2 weeks. It's Jake's fault yet again. He's been a very busy boy. He's had lots on, so we've not been able to record the show. But that will change soon, hopefully. Happy spook season as well. Happy
Halloween.
October. We're super excited. I have a Halloween special coming out on Diaries on Sunday. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I hope everybody's having a great October. There's like a lot to talk about considering how long we've been away. Starting with the Tesla show. Holy shit. Everything feels like it's old news now by the time it's 3 days old. I feel like we're really late to this. We're really late to the subject. But I feel like we did definitely have to comment on it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it's insane, and it also has a lot of wider implications as well, which we're going to get into. But yeah, first of all, to dive in, Elon Musk had this like huge Tesla show that was like studded with influencers and celebrities and corporations. And yeah, basically he decided it was the showcasing of the new Tesla Optimus robot. And he claims it will be able to do everything, and that it will only be the price of a car, so like $30,000 thereabout. And yeah, it's being super hyped. And obviously, yeah, we're gonna show you some news clips right now regarding it, so that you can see for yourself if you haven't like seen clips on social media already. But yeah, here.
Gen 2 robots to work at the company's We Robot event, serving drinks, handing out gift bags, posing for photos with attendees, and dancing. Musk also shared his vision for how these robots might fit into people's lives. Here's everything you need to know.
Now, one of the things we wanted to show tonight was that Optimus is not a canned video. The Optimus robots will walk among you.
Elon Musk and Tesla held their We Robot event at Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank, California. After dropping 2 brand new self-driving cars, Musk introduced several Optimus Gen 2s and laid out his vision for human-humanoid relations.
It'll basically do anything you want. So it can be a teacher, babysit your kids, it can walk your dog, mow your lawn, get the groceries, just be your friend, serve drinks. I think this will be the biggest product ever of any kind.
What's really new about all this Optimus footage is the fact that people are getting a chance to interact with these robots, which is important for building trust, especially if these things are meant to go into people's homes. The robots handed out gift bags and drinks, similar to previous skills we've seen from the robots in Tesla's promotional videos. Dancing, similarly, has been a part of Tesla Bot's marketing from the beginning, back when it was just a person in a robot suit. Even more broadly, it's been an industry trend since Boston Dynamics went repeatedly viral with videos of its Spot and Atlas robots dancing. This type of interaction with the public isn't something we've seen a lot of in the humanoid robotics field. Aside from robots working as attractions at places like the Sphere or Disney's theme parks, robots often stay in the lab until they're nearly ready for production or a limited release to strategic partners, developers.
Well, I think, not only is it sort of, an ad now for people for personal use, I think that whole thing was like an ad for corporations more than anything, and for businesses.
Well, he's sort of trying to basically take this it's the same sort of libertarian ideology that he's sort of well known for, right? It's sort of like, oh, you can own a robo taxi or whatever, and it will go out and work for you, and you'll earn money through the robo taxi, picking up people and giving rides in it in your downtime and all that kind of stuff, right? Or like with the same principle essentially with the robot, is this thing that would be able to assist you in your day to day, and then when you don't have anything for it to do, you can lease it out to other people and have this sort of like entrepreneurial, everyone's like doing their own thing with no real like form of like a sort of larger like communal sense of that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And even like the robo taxis, like one of the sort of ways that, or the sort of taglines in the way that he sort of pitched that was individualized mass transit. And I think that kind of like, again, yeah, it's sort of like pretty typical of someone with his sort of like he's just so avidly
Out of touch.
ideologically driven in
yeah,
that kind of way,
yeah.
right?
But
So,
even then, I mean, think about how the tech industry has affected things like hotels with Airbnb, and not just hotels, that the entire housing market in cities, to the point that like governments have had to create regulation in order to curtail the kind of social decay that it's causing. People buying properties in family neighborhoods for the express purpose of like renting them out. Also the sort of depersonalized service that you get when you're sort of in this weird gig economy stuff. Sometimes it's like, I just want to like take a cab because I know that it will be clean and safe. And like people are now going back to hotels en masse as well, because of Airbnb's like exorbitant charges and stuff. You know, there was that like sort of joke that was made at the turn of the Industrial Revolution about if they had asked the masses what they wanted, they would have said they wanted faster horses. As a way of kind of saying, oh, look at the great industrialist genius mind and how much they sort of push things forward. But I mean, it's like the opposite now, where, you know, the tech industry is offering us these sorts of, you know, solutions that create social disruption and aren't often better than their sort of 20th century alternative either.
well, I don't know. It's sort of, I think that's where he's sort of pitching this idea of the robot and the robot taxi as well, is sort of through his crazy like libertarian lens, but it's also just like a way he wasn't even really going to include the Tesla robots, like the Optimus or whatever it's called. He was only it was the whole thing was really only supposed to be about the robo taxi and the self-driving car part of it. But like for whatever reason he felt like that wasn't really enough, and so he kind of tried to make it sexier by including all these robots and stuff.
Well,
but
not just
the fact is, like, all of those robots were teleoperated and with a person's voice behind all of them, all 20 of them. None of them like had the same voice. They all had a different voice because there was a different person teleoperating all 20 of them. And like this is this isn't just like an advert that he's done to the world, like to try and get you to pre-order one. It's actually like to investors. That's who like is invited to this massive thing. And so I think like this is a lot of the claims that he's made with like the cyber, the robo-taxi and all of this kind of idea of self-driving vehicles is the stuff that he's literally been harping on about since 2015.
Yeah.
So, and
I mean, even Trump, we showed in our last episode, Trump was sort of, before their sort of weird alliance, Trump was like making fun of him, calling him like a fail rocket, fail son or whatever.
Well,
so his reputation for delivering things, even the weird tunnel thing he was talking about building under LA to to skip traffic or whatever the fuck.
I mean, I think that if it had buy-in from either the government or the California or Nevada or whichever kind of states that he was trying to operate that in, and it was not just a totally private industry thing, like that could have been an interesting project. But because it's all just on the back of like trying to make this thing, and then you needing to be answerable to, you know, people to make a profit and whatever, I just like, there's no way that that's ever really gonna fucking take off.
No.
And I don't think he can really. I think he just like, for some reason, and maybe it's like, you know, his upbringing, because I think obviously from what I understand, like his family were quite wealthy when he was like growing up and whatever as well. Like he either like has never really experienced the real benefits of like actual mass transit, like public transit, like,
he's just
you
gonna
know,
make it more inefficient, more
he's like, oh no,
expensive,
everybody should have their own individualized thing because that's the best way.
Yeah,
That's how I've
yeah.
lived my entire life,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine anybody getting on like a
any
thing with loads of
communal,
other
like,
stuff.
Yeah.
Just like,
yeah.
and I think like the idea of like either the one at the end, kind of the larger one. I think a lot of people have even torn that apart just on like a mechanical like design basis that it just wouldn't function, and like be able to go up hills and like all sorts of things.
But
And
despite
sorry,
Musk's,
let me just finish with the like end of like the investment thing. Like this is kind of a pattern for Tesla, and this has been a big like discussion like online within the like around like the stock, the valuation of its stock and stuff like that. Is that he constantly tries to pull moves like this, which basically try to artificially pump the stock back up to go, look, it's all coming together with this grand project. It's all connected with this, with AI, with fucking with this, with self-driving, with full automation for trucks and all sorts of stuff that he's been going on about for fucking ages.
Yeah.
And none of it's ever come through.
No.
He's tried this one now, and with the load of fakery and bullshit, which everybody kind of saw through, and instead of pumping the stock, it fucking lost like nearly 20% or something like that. So I think like the sort of bullshit that he's been able to weave around Tesla and its value is sort of starting to drop in the eyes of most people now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a good thing.
Which is what I was kind of moving on to, is the fact that like regardless of Elon Musk's like narcissistic antics, automation is kind of coming down the pipeline in a lot of different ways. And what I found the most disturbing about this sort of garish display of robots was the fact that you had people that kind of celebrating human obsolescence in a way, celebrating their own obsolescence, because all the things that he is saying his robots are going to be able to do or can do or whatever are, you know, people's jobs, bartending, all of the things, nannying. These are things that humans go to school to train to do, or, you know, go to vocational training programs to do or whatever. So I think it's really strange
well, it's also
for people
like,
to be cheering on their own obsolescence.
you can tell how totally disconnected he is from the reality of how most people live their life, right?
Yeah.
Because, and he did the same thing with Tesla Model, like even 1 to 3, like when they first launched. That, oh, it's going to be cheap. It's going to be around $30,000.
Yeah.
And he seems to love this $30,000 number.
That's what he thinks the proles are. That's like a number that's like not
that's
too
nice.
big to scare the proles off.
It's like it's a big item. It's a big thing that's going to improve your life in all of these immeasurable ways, but it is only going to be $30,000. And like he always tries to pitch that. Well, in reality, like the fucking, I think he even said that about the Cybertruck when he first announced the Cybertruck. And the Cybertruck kitted out is like $100,000.
Yeah.
So like he misses the market, and the way he does it is by, he mentions this word at the end of all of the like rough pricing, etc., of all of the stuff that he announces by saying at scale.
Yeah.
Meaning when Optimus is such a hot product that literally, as he said, 8 billion people in the world want to buy one.
Yeah.
At that scale, he might be able to sell it to you for $30,000.
Exactly.
But probably initially, when it comes around, it will probably be at least double that price, or if not, like even more.
Exactly.
So like, I don't think any like, and I think a lot of people have also seen people just aren't buying it. They're not buying the bullshit.
But I think again, this is more supposed to be, like you said, a stunt for investors, and also, you know, for corporations, and, you know, things that are going to eventually use these robots to replace human beings. I mean, right now in America, there was the sort of dock worker strike that happened not too long ago. And one of the biggest complaints in that regard was automation and the fear of being replaced by robots. And, you know, this is a very stable working class job that, you know, I think it's about $100,000 to $200,000 a year that these men make, because the
because they have to operate heavy machinery,
and it's dangerous,
be sober, and probably subject themselves to drug tests and all sorts of stuff.
But it's one of the last, you know, vocations in America, blue collar vocations that like can feed a family, and obviously these men are concerned about trends in automation and how it's going to affect their livelihood.
Sounds like a tube driver to me.
No, that you sound like an asshole to me. Because that's precisely what's been a lot of Americans have been saying. They've been sort of shitting on the striking workers, saying that
for our non-American, like non-British audience, sorry, like a tube driver meaning like the underground, the London Underground. Essentially, there's only one little portion of the London Underground, the latest portion that was made and added onto it, called the DLR, that is fully automatic with no drivers on it, because the technology existed back then to do that. But for some reason, God's been known, it's the same exact fucking reason, we can't do that for all of the rest of the tube, because there's people that need to sit in the train and press a button.
I think you're being an asshole, because people are saying the same thing
So,
about
yeah.
these striking workers. They're saying, oh, you guys make a lot of money, shut the fuck up, what are you talking about? And people don't care about these things until it comes for their sector. And like white collar work is under threat because of this stuff. Blue collar work is under threat. Like everybody is under threat. And I don't think corporations, like you were saying before, you said cheaper. What was the thing you said?
Faster, cheaper, safer.
That's precisely
And
what corporations are.
If you can hit all three of those, that's the fucking golden ticket. There's like zero way that you're going to be able to like keep human beings in those jobs.
Yeah.
That's just like, and that doesn't make, and that's also ethical and like everything else as well, right? From a standpoint of like getting something accomplished, it would be much safer, cheaper, and
the problem is we
faster
don't have a
to get it done
society that
without like a human
necessarily
being risking their livelihood.
I understand
or
what you're saying, but we don't have
breaking their back or whatever the fuck it would be.
I understand what you're saying, but we don't have a society that necessarily gives a shit about, you know, the sort of economic impact on workers. And the north of England is a primary example of this very thing playing out, you know, during the deindustrialization of that part of the country. They did nothing to save or to safeguard the men of the community. The community became demoralized. It's still poor. It's still almost as poor as Eastern Europe in certain parts of the north of England now, because of that whole process. But what was introduced then was the sort of welfare state. And the welfare state ended up becoming a poverty trap in a lot of ways for people in the north of England. And I think that's kind of what's going to happen here is you're going to see a lot of people lose their jobs, and then something like a universal basic income will be weaponized very much in the way the welfare state in the UK has been weaponized for decades. If you want to look into that, I suggest doing it. The welfare state has been used in some very insidious ways, almost like eugenicist ways in the UK. So that's kind of where I foresee things heading.
I feel like that's a bit hyperbolic.
It's not hyperbolic at all. Like, social housing is designed to make people sick and like to make their life expectancies like shorter.
But then
So there's like a Malthusian bend.
let's say you get a good turnover rate for the flats. You know what I mean?
There's a Malthusian bend to the social welfare state of the UK. And so many people had their lives ruined during that deindustrializing period and were sort of pushed into generational poverty. So, you know, there are a myriad of case studies of economic changes like the one that's on the horizon currently that show that we don't have a system that gives a shit about what happens to people.
It's not just
So even though, bullshit jobs may go away because of automation, what I'm concerned about is how will people eat? And the thing is, there's sort of been an erosion of blue collar work for a long time now, for like at least the last few decades. You know, being before in the past, not having a college education wasn't like a death sentence. Not having a college education meant you could still have like a dignified income in that sense. Whereas, you know, now it's the sort of work, blue collar work that's available that would provide you that kind of lifestyle is so few and far between. And the more that kind of gives way to automation, the more brutal it's going to get.
Well, I don't know. I think the energy should be put into advocating for like a better economy for people rather than to cling on to outdated bullshit jobs, in my opinion. like technology will continue to advance, and when those 3 boxes are ticked, the job will go. It's basically as simple as that. The only reason that McDonald's has still got people in the kitchen is because those 3 aren't ticked yet. It's not cheaper to get a kitchen robot. It's as simple as that, and it's not really faster, and it's not really safer at the moment, because because of the amount of maintenance and oversight and all of that other stuff. As soon as those 3 boxes are ticked, watch how most fast food is literally 100% automated. And I know that they've already tried it in some places with certain with certain restaurants and whatever in America, and there's probably places in China which are also doing similar things as well.
Elon Musk has been talking a lot about universal basic income recently.
All of the AI people talk about universal basic income.
And as somebody who lives in the UK and has seen, lives in a country that has a history of this sort of economic change and upheaval, and the welfare state kind of stepping in, it's a trap. And the welfare state here was sort of proposed as like a benevolent, and I mean, especially, you know, it used to be like Victorian urban sprawl where people were literally like dying in the streets, and then the workhouses came along.
Exactly.
And then after that, the workhouses came along. It was then the welfare state. But these things were like, you know, ways of kind of institutionalizing and
all of those things
marginalizing
are
the poor.
All of those things are horrible. But you know what they also are? An improvement on the thing that came before it.
Okay, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, being on welfare
just
is
playing the Ray cuts while everything is
being
actually
on welfare
getting better.
and being in one of those stack of prole council flats is a much better predicament than being in a workhouse and having to like break rocks. But at the same time, it's still a trap. Like,
yeah, I'm not disputing that it's still
a lid on one's ability to gain social mobility and to pursue one's vocations. Like, I don't think people get how deep the poverty trap is in the UK when it comes to like the welfare state, and how for generations and generations people.
I would argue that we're
like,
already like suffering such lack of meaning that like most people don't care and like want to just get paid. Like, they're not invested in anything beyond making sure they can survive and whatever. So like, I don't really think that there's like much of that kind of culture at this point even to really like hold on to. And there needs to be something totally new formed with this new age. And like, what's like the crazy part with it, with like all of this sort of like billionaire moves that are happening at the moment with new technology and like this sort of like seeming new technology boom, sort of like .com bubble or whatever you would describe this kind of moment as. Like, you know, the crazy like tech cities and stuff that people are building and stuff.
Yeah, like Neom or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, or like there's this place, Profiter or whatever it was called, Prospera or something like that in Ecuador.
Wow.
Right, it's being built as like a Bitcoin future city.
Oh god.
You know, and but like these are the places where they're going to be trying to do incredibly like ridiculous things because they have no like laws and like boundaries to really hold them accountable to. And it does kind of feel like with the pace in which like things are moving, they are like it's not just like fucking VCR to CDs. Like it's not really like changing like the entire sort of infrastructure of democracy and like everything else doesn't need to feel like it needs like catch up in such a crazy radical way. Whereas at this point, like the kind of technology that we have like at our disposal, how connected we all are, is to such another extent. The digital realm has grown to such another extent that like the foundation of the system like has to be like totally radically changed, and it literally won't be.
But even in this election, politicians are barely speaking about these issues looming on the horizon. And I mean, the traditional left that, you know, should be talking about these issues is far too focused on everything else.
Well, a lot of people are worried about World War III, and I fucking get that.
I get that too, but like being concerned about like how your family is gonna eat should always be your number one fucking priority, and that should transcend everything.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, the points I wanted to make linked to the points that you were making are, number one, even if there is a universal basic income system, there's going to be a catch to signing onto it. This is where the whole kind of mark of the beast
You got to
element.
scan your eye into Sam Altman's Globe coin to get your digital ID.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
it's more they're probably involved biometric data, all sorts of things, making you more trackable, more controllable, all of those different things, and also more easy to curtail. Say, for instance, like look at what happened during COVID when those truckers, for instance, decided they were going to protest. They were kicked out of the banking system by Trudeau. And think about how much easier that will be if, you know, you're on some weird UBI system. They could say, oh, you're smoking weed, Jakey Bear. We don't like that. No UBI for you.
can I give you a positive spin on the dystopia?
Go on then.
Can I give you a positive spin on the dystopia?
You can try.
Okay. So, like, I would argue that, like, you and your habits online and all of that stuff is, like, the free or... what was the exact term that Mark Zuckerberg used? I think he called it worthless or something like this. Worthless data, right? That is then tracked and used by advertisers to generate billions of dollars and all of this kind of thing. So to say that then, like, you, instead of doing this anonymously, you scan your retina through this fucking glowy mechanical looking Terminator pod thing, right? And that creates your online ID, and that is also then scannable by your phone or something like that, that everybody would have in their pockets, right?
No.
And then all of your online activity goes towards generating your UBI, and all of the money that is sort of like, not all of the money, but like a chunk of the money that is used by all of that like stuff that you're doing is essentially just paid back to you in the form of that UBI. And and the mechanism in which they do that is through this like crazy glowy like fucking CDC like whatever the fuck.
I doubt that very much. I think we're going to see...
And then not only that, the other positive thing is it gets rid of anonymity of the internet, and it gets rid of a lot of trolls and bots and all of those kinds of things.
If you say naughty things on Twitter, your UBI gets yanked.
And you could be arrested. Right? So it cleans up a lot of
Why are you like such
stuff.
a Judge Dredd fucking Arma and like fucking...
I'm not...
You just want to put people in the cubes. That's what you want.
I'm not 100% sure about relinquishing anonymity with the internet, because I feel like it will forever totally inherently change the way that the internet is and has been. And I think that, I mean, maybe I'm just nostalgic. I've fucking grown up with it and the wild west of Web 1.0. Fuck, like this Web 2, 3.0 crypto shit, whatever the fucking phase
we're
that
gonna
we're
get to
in
that
now.
in a minute.
But yeah, like I feel like there is like, I understand like the pessimistic, horrible, crazy side of that is one thing, but there is also another way to look at it in that way,
Yeah.
which is in some ways like positive. And I don't think that the whole
I'm not
lacking,
saying we always have
whatever.
the same argument. I'm not saying that there aren't like positive possibilities for this deluge that we're experiencing right now. But it's like you have to be a surfer, if you get what I mean, on the deluge. You have to learn how to sort of channel the technological chaos in ways that are beneficial for humanity, and in ways that don't contribute towards things like human obsolescence and social decay. But what we have is an elite and a system that basically does the opposite of that. And that's the issue I have. I'm not saying that we should... I'm not saying that we should try to stop technological innovation. I'm saying that it should be done ethically and with human flourishing in mind. And that doesn't seem to be the case currently, especially as you're seeing human obsolescence being pushed by like these fucking tech billionaires.
Well, it's like it's not that humans are obsolete in general. It's that humans for certain tasks should be and will become obsolete.
Sure, but it doesn't just stop there. Like my mom is a lawyer, for instance, and she said that she was playing around with some law fucking AI software that her professor was showing her, and she was completely shocked and dumbfounded and blown away by the sheer amount that it could do in such a quick time. So even, incredibly white collar work like law is something that could be up for grabs in the future. So it's not just the bullshit jobs. And you keep looking at it from this frame of just bullshit jobs. If it was just bullshit jobs, then you wouldn't have people as worried as they currently are.
Look,
I think every job that gets taken, you reduce it to bullshit job. Your job as an audio engineer, that is like,
yeah, there's already Udio and all these things where you can go, oh, give me some jazzy lo-fi hip hop, and it will make you your own jazzy lo-fi hip hop.
not just that, you have their software that can mix stuff to a high standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you consider your job a bullshit job?
Well, kind of, because it's also like what is the value that you can provide? And
your creativity, your human ear, you're an expert. That's why people fucking hire you.
And if that's valued to some people, those people will always go with that option. But if you're doing it to check boxes and do whatever else, then you'll use the fucking cheapest common denominator. And in most, if not all examples, I don't know of really a single company, if I'm completely honest, that stands on we do quality. Even Apple lets it slip, right? With like some updates and whatever. I mean, they're probably actually, you know what? Apple are probably as much as shit as I give them. Like, they are also kind of the ones that, especially with hardware and whatever else, like, yeah, when it comes out, you know that it's going to fucking work and it's going to be pretty kind of flawless. Right? It's not a Bethesda game.
Yeah.
If when you got your new iPad, it was like a Bethesda game and it was fucking glitching out on like when you tried to open the YouTube app or whatever the fuck, or it was like sending an email when you try to send a text or something, it would have a shitty reputation, right? Mm-hmm. Everything now has that reputation. Everything has Bethesda level fucking bugs like built into it, because it's not built on with a group of people in mind to actually build something with quality. It always gets whittled down to making the cheapest possible thing to make the most amount of profit possible. And if that's like outsourcing jobs to third world countries or getting robots to come and do the work instead, like, they will do that because the system is engineered to do that, to maximize profit in any possible way. And as soon as one company starts to do something because they realize that they will follow the trend, because there is no possible way.
Gig economy as well, when that whole thing started as well, you sort of saw how that kind of took over real quick and very quickly started to have a damaging effect on many different markets. But like I said, I don't think there is going to be this grace or sympathy that you're thinking of. I don't think that there's going to be this benevolent solution posed where our data mind is going to make us all millionaires living in luxury.
No, but these are the sorts of ideas. These are the sorts of ideas and things that people should be thinking about and advocating for.
I agree.
If they want to soften that blow.
I agree.
Because I
agree.
don't think anything will soften the blow. I think it will be brutal and it will be harsh, and people will lose a lot of their fucking jobs, and there will be an awful lot of that kind of stuff. And everything done it will be as reactionary and in response to that when it's already fucking happened. Where actually this is the time, the 3-year grace period that they got with the automation thingy from the dockyard strikes and whatever it was, because I think basically they ended up getting a massive pay rise, but they didn't agree on a fucking settlement about the automation, because there's no way that a company is ever going to agree to do that, because at that point there's already other ports using that technology and they will need to cut costs, and that will be automating, and sorry, goodbye. So think of your times are fucking numbered and use that energy to advocate for actual real fucking like economic and political fucking change and like consensus around people. It's not just like this amorphous thing. This is like conversations that people need to have to kind of be on the same page.
But unfortunately both aspects of the current US campaign are kind of to the moon with all of this stuff. I guess obviously the Democrats more covertly, because they also have big tech interests on their side.
Trump is literally going to the moon, dude. He's got his own coin.
He's got his own fucking coin. He's feeding this. And the thing that annoys me is that the sort of the crypto constituency seems to have like gotten really behind Trump, because they view themselves as like these libertarian outlaws fighting against a corrupt system. And Trump has sort of spun that narrative for himself as well. But ironically, the Trump campaign, especially if Trump wins, it's sort of going to be used as a Trojan horse to push a lot of this stuff. And he's sort of been advocating for and also kind of spinning techno utopian dreams of Trump freedom cities and freedom coin. And the thing is, these people know that the West is fucking cooked, and they're pushing these visions on the sort of docile and, you know, uneducated masses in order to pick the corpse of the failing empire. Like didn't Trump's Bitcoin thing end up being a huge scam? Like, isn't there a scandal going on about that right now?
I mean, the top journalist or whatever, citizen journalist, however you describe him, CoffeeZilla on YouTube, has kind of like talked about it recently, but I haven't really seen anybody else kind of be able to get any further information about it. And the only people that are going to know about it are the people that are running it and are involved, or any actual kind of government body that ends up having to investigate them when they have provably like broken the law, and people start to file some kind of suit against them. But until then, everything will be like in complete blackness and opaque, you know, to anybody on the outside, that unless they are a whistleblower or granted information by somebody else. And that's the way most of those kind of like crypto scams kind of run, whilst they sort of let a lot of people leave them back. I think it's a very interesting time to try and run a crypto scam. Nick Land accelerationism. I'm not trying to like advocate or like say that that's like, it's just kind of reality. I think he kind of like called it in a lot of ways. Like, it's just the kind of nature of the beast.
Don't listen
Do you know
to
what I
him.
mean?
Don't listen to this like possessed by Araman.
I'm not saying it's good.
Listen,
but it's just sort of like,
listen.
you know,
No.
Is it gonna happen, dude?
It's like, listen. I don't want to spoil the plot of my next video because it's like kind of to do with that. But what I'm trying to communicate is you need to control the chaos. The chaos is going to come regardless of whether we like it or not. We're entering this time of like giant technological deluge. But as conscious beings, it's our job to lead that current in ways that are productive, to sort of wage chaos kampf in a way that, like, you know, protects things that are important, like our communities, the light of consciousness itself, our social fabric, all of the different things that technology has attacked and eroded. These are things that we need to, you know, work to protect. So I don't agree with that Landian doomer bullshit of just bend over for the basilisk. Sorry.
It's not bend over
It
for
is.
the basilisk.
It really
and that's not what I said
It
either.
really is,
It was
though.
to be.
It
It
kind
was
of
to
is.
use this period of time when we see. It's like, it's kind of. I'm not sure if other ones really had. I think they probably did. It was in those crazy we live in public moments,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
some people, like that guy Josh, did
You
see.
need to give
this-
context for people who don't know what
Sorry,
we're talking about.
in the .com bubble, there was this crazy guy called Josh who basically made all these like claims about the internet and how it would change the world, and he tried to do all this stuff. He made Twitch 20 years too soon, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, everyone thought he was crazy, but a bunch of I would say all of his predictions about how it would change human behavior and what we would do on the internet were 100% correct. And I think that there are some people now that are like doing that very same thing about all of this like new technology shift, and I think it's wrapped up in crypto, hype, and all of this other stuff. And so there's people kind of not really paying attention, listen, and we'll kind of end up seeing like who is correct at the end of the day. I think like in the next few years, that's probably there's a reason why they've given that time scale.
I think
Right. And I think that's probably realistic. I think like by the next few years, if you see the rate in which this technology is improving in robotics.
I mean, it's at its worst right now, so
yeah,
it's only going to
that
get better.
every time you see a new video is.
I'm not
at its
afraid though,
worst.
because these innovations can be channeled for so much good.
Absolutely,
Which
they
is
could
my
be.
point. Like, they can be channeled for so much good, and that's really what the focus should be on. Not trying to be a Luddite and push back the chaos, but be a surfer and learn how to sort of surf on it in a controlled way, which is what I'm advocating for. And which is why I kind of have an issue with that kind of Landian accelerationist perspective, because it's like, just let the forces of capitalism run wild. Let them erode human consciousness, and then something new will somehow emerge. Like, fuck you. That's fucking bullshit. Get the fuck out of here with that.
J. George saying Brazil has completely fallen into scam capitalism, but no crypto stuff. It's still pretty basic stuff.
I mean, it's not even just Brazil. I mean, even China, and China claims not to be capitalist, but China's even more accelerationist than the West. That's precisely why Nick Land moved there, in my opinion, because they have far less regulation when it comes to this stuff, and far less red tape. And they're accelerating to the moon. They're not stopping.
Well, I don't know. From everything that I've really read and looked at recently about China, I feel like there's just a shift in sentimentality that is changing the way that it's interacted with the West. And so, like, I saw a thing recently that was talking about how all the biggest brands of the West, Apple, Nike, you name it, from whatever like field of consumer stuff that you could buy, is like down, and everything that would be the Chinese competitor of that stuff is up over double, triple what their other Western counterpoints have been down on. And I think that like a lot of like the kind of growth, quote unquote, like bullshit capitalist, like public shareholder fucking culture of like seeing number go up is predicated on the idea of growth. And like they see places like China as something where they've only just started, and they've got all of this new growth to still achieve in such a lucrative market like China, because the middle class is growing and like all of this kind of stuff, right? Well, actually, that only works when like all the people want to buy your shit.
Yeah,
and
they don't.
Like if all of your shit is like twice as expensive as what they can do in China, and like there's no other reason other than like it's Western and it has this whatever kind of social appeal around it because of those facts, then it's not going to work. And that's why like recently with like the next generation of like Chinese people coming into being like adults and shit, I feel like that's basically been the shift that we've seen in the last few years. And the reason why a bunch of that stuff is like not going the way it is. And so that like at the same time as them, oh no, now our like golden goose of like the developing world, essentially, of these markets in which we hope to grow in, the vibe has shifted. And the growth is not looking so golden anymore. In the region of the world.
So now we need to be robber barons and sell people's crypto scams.
No.
Like,
and
that
so now,
seems like
and so now
what's
we
going
need
on.
to find the fucking fastest way to fucking cut costs and like reduce fucking like costs in like as much ways as possible, and automation is going to be the number one pursuant of on that agenda, because it's the biggest way for them to do exactly that and improve their margins.
Definitely.
And so if like all of it revolves around, what I'm saying is all of it revolves around the incentives for massive corporations to all push towards this direction of automation.
And that's the thing that annoys me about the Trump campaign, is that they are sort of posturing like they're full working class people. I mean, Trump did a big photo up in the fucking McDonald's.
Potentially fake McDonald's.
Yeah. He did a big photo up in the McDonald's. Meanwhile, he has people like Peter Thiel, and you know, he's pushing all this stuff. Like he's got, you know, Elon Musk, but these are all the people that are behind this very agenda. And, you know, this is precisely the future that they want. But I don't know. I think it's gross, because I remember reading something on Twitter today where someone was commenting on Trump's appearance in the McDonald's, and they were like, oh, it's a sign of nobility, because he's not like the Democrats who just pretend to be proles. He'll just go there and sort of oblige the proles, which is like very noble or whatever. And I'm like, it's such a bizarre assessment, because number one, it's a spectacle, it's fake, it's not even fucking real.
Well,
and secondly, like, he doesn't have any sort of grace or nobility towards the proles. He doesn't give a shit about them at all.
The photo looks so uncanny that people weren't sure if it was just AI generated or not.
I thought it was.
The picture of him with the glow from the fries up on him with the hat on and the whole get up and stuff. I don't know what it was about it, like the kind of the sharpness of it, or the way it looked, or maybe that's just kind of, I've been looking at too much AI images or whatever. But like it did. It made me kind of really like. Is this like some crazy like made up bullshit thing to try and smear Trump, or like all the other way around, or whatever the fuck it was, and like trying to make sense of it. And then you see the videos. Like, oh no, it was an actual real event. But then there's all sorts of like articles that come out of it potentially being a closed down McDonald's that was only opened to do this like specific
we are truly
stunt,
in the society of the spectacle, like full on, like in the society of the spectacle.
And so it is the more we get into this
artificial
realm,
reality,
it is going to become even harder to really decipher things.
But the thing is that the people within the Trump campaign constituency who fully buy the mythology of it, they're buying into the spectacle fully. Not just in terms of like the imagery and stuff that's being presented, but also like the idea of like Trump cities, freedom coin, all of this stuff. The idea that he's this like big daddy that's going to bring back prosperity to America, when him and his ilk are the robber barons that are trying to pick the corpse of America. And I'm not saying the Democrats aren't the same, for sure. I'm just saying don't be under illusions. And it annoys me just how much the sort of disaffected, dissident, schizo energy has been absorbed into the Trump movement, and how fervently they believe that him getting into office is going to make a difference when it's not. I mean, even with Israel Palestine, like he's so firmly in the fucking pockets of the Zionists, so lots of people saying that he's going to do anything about that are full of shit as well. And yeah, it's all connected. It's all leading towards this sort of disenfranchising of the Western working class, automation, enriching of the elite class,
working class everywhere. Because at the same time,
and middle class too.
At the same time,
middle class.
At the same time, whilst China does have more people in like history improving, Ray Kurzweil, whatever the fuck, like there's more people in a better situation in China now than there ever has been. There is also like a higher unemployment rate amongst
youth,
like the youth and all sorts of people that there never has been. And not only that, but like a sentiment of fuck whatever's good for China. I just want to fucking chill. Which was
the
also
Bailan kind of
so whilst all of that other good stuff with like their own companies and whatever the fuck doing really well and fucking off Western companies and shit, like they do have this other underlying like issue which mirrors a lot of the same issues that we all suffer in the West as well, from a certain generation and whatever the fuck especially. So I feel like it's not just like a Western working class people thing, it is just like a global, working class people fucking thing everywhere. We're all gonna fucking lose out in this next technological thing, and it's just kind of figuring out basically whatever cozy way that you can manage to survive within that, you know. And like that and that's like why like I watched what's it, Cyberpunk Edge Runners on mushrooms like last time I was
you were trying to plan your cyberpunk grift for the future.
No dude, it was just more like it was more like really seeing the inevitability of life like that, which is terrifying, but also I felt relieved that I had like had this kind of realization and kind of acceptance almost, where it was just like, yeah, maybe it won't be as ridiculous as you like literally replacing your skeleton with a robot and all of that like video game level shit. But like, yeah dude, like a certain amount of like how much are you willing to give away essentially of yourself to maintain a semblance of like human and like offline real like connection or whatever you would kind of call it, and or how much of yourself are you willing to totally like give to this new system to like work within it and like get on essentially. And that choice is gonna
become more stark as things go on.
You're gonna be met with more crazy shit within that choice as well, like you know,
Antichrist shit basically.
Like Neuralink and all of that stuff is like a distant you know, whatever right now. Within 3 years that is gonna be a different fucking conversation, and like that is again will be another thing that completely changes the playing field for what we call productive work and like all of this kind of thing, or
even productivity in general, because of all the sorts of mental, physical advantages that, you know, these so-called enhancements. I mean, I've been really interested in Rudolf Steiner for the last year, and one of the things he talks about in his like predictions about the incarnation of Ahriman or whatever in this age, is the idea that the bifurcation of society, the idea that these sorts of moral, ethical, philosophical decisions posed by this technological deluge are going to force society to kind of bifurcate.
Yeah.
People who are going to plug in completely and those who don't want to, and you're going to have to kind of be forced to choose between the two.
And that's what I kind of mean about like giving you the idea about data and UBI and whatever, right? Is that the choice right will be to find a job which most don't exist anymore unless it's incredibly hyper specialized or something kind of I don't know, right? Like it would get to some kind of point like that,
ultra white collar.
And then if you didn't do that, then like kind of what what would you do? You would then either join this system to gain this UBI for you to exist and like have food, or do some illegal shit and become some kind of like street kid or whatever the fuck, like in how you describe it in Cyberpunk, right?
I mean, the hoodie you're wearing right now looks like you're ready for it. It has like a tiger. It has a friggin' embroidered tiger on it.
It's a puma. It's a puma. A puma or a panther. You got a puma on one side, tiger on the other side.
I definitely don't look like I'm ready for Cyberpunk.
No, you look way too cute. You look like you should be in a little cottage in the Shire somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Baking me like apple pies or something tasty.
That sounds nice. That's what we should do. We should run away and do that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I mean by Cyberpunk is inevitable. It's sort of, yeah.
Someone said we're all going to be mainlining DMT in the metaverse. I hope not. I really do hope not.
I hope not. It'll be crazy,
think we
right?
Still have a grace
the data
period
you generate
now.
in VR will be 3 times more valuable than data you generate on your little 2D device, because they can measure haptics and your heart rate and all sorts of other extra data.
Oh my god!
So you're just losing money by not operating in VR and like being in the metaverse. So. I don't know. That's the thing. It could really be like that, dude. Which is fucking wild. Like it, and that is that is fucking nuts.
Sorry, this episode hasn't been as funny, haha. But I don't feel like the world is very
having
funny,
like
haha.
Speculations about kind of the way that this stuff could pan out.
I know.
I think is interesting.
And I've just been hearing the voice of Ahriman coming out of Jake's face all day. It's been really worrying me. Pray for him. Pray for him.
It's it's interesting. I think if it all just like kind of ends up like that, like nothing really kind of changing and the elites just sucking totally everything up and everybody being like, then there would be some kind of revolution or something, right? Like if we let's talk about the last resulting option, right? People actually get off their ass and demand
do something
like a
about
political change in like a meaningful way.
Yeah. Everyone's divided by identity politics and culture war and bullshit and all of that stuff. I think it's really going to have to take the big shock of automation for people to realize that we're in it together. Danny says in the Matrix K-hole lol. Yes, indeed. Indeed. But yeah, I think it's definitely, I think this is the thing. I remember some idiot in the comments a few weeks ago, we did an episode on, what was it again? It was called Robots something. So we did an episode on robots a few weeks ago, and there was a comment, someone there who was like, "Oh, Angie, you've lost the plot. You don't talk about class anymore," or whatever. And I was like, so yeah, automation isn't like a huge class issue. It's not the biggest class issue. Like when these people think of class, I don't know what the fuck they think of.
Yeah.
And like the left, and I'm pretty sure this person was like a annoyed, disgruntled leftist. And that the things that they care about are so superfluous compared to what's coming down the pipeline. And I mean, that's why I really like Mark Fisher, because he actually talked about this stuff like incredibly, in such a eloquent manner. And he didn't discount it as like the stuff of science fiction or whatever. And he wasn't, dismissive of it. But what I've noticed about a lot of these lefty types is that they tend to dismiss any sort of talk about you know, the technological acceleration
Because
future we're in.
it's not sexy, and it's fucking complex, and
Yeah.
it's also like, how do you?
And a lot of them support it. A lot of them are
how do you-
actually fully on board with it as
Well,
well.
I think it's also just like you get some really shitty, stupid response from leftists a lot of the time. It's like, oh, it's about the incentives, bro. The incentives are to make as much money as possible. It's like, yes, they are. How would one not make it that? Because that is the way in which the system in which someone gains power and freedom in the world. So
Yeah.
every given thing will be driven to do that, no matter what, like,
Yeah.
mechanism in which, even if you were in communism or whatever the fuck,
Yeah.
like, it's still the same
Yeah.
principle that you need to, like, fucking do things
Exactly.
for the, like
Jay George just said, we need an updated Leninist view of class struggle for the 21st century. I disagree. I don't think we need to resuscitate dead ideas from the 20th century.
we need to take a Fela Kuti approach, bro.
Yeah.
And we need to be making new ideas for a
Yes.
new world.
Was that
with
a
new
Nigerian accent that
fucking-
almost came out?
No, with new ideas for a new world,
Yeah.
for a fucking new religious fucking moment, with
Yeah.
all of this fucking crazy shit
New
that's
economic
happening.
moment.
Like,
We're facing unprecedented challenges, and although we can learn from the, you know, ideologies of the past, we cannot run full force into this new future wielding them, unfortunately. So that's the kind of reason why I'm quite hostile to online leftists specifically, and want nothing to do with them, because they're stupid. And they irritate me, and they're short-sighted, and they care about dumb things or things that don't impact them at all. And the very things that, like, are important get completely ignored. And I don't see as many of them talking about automation as much as they should be. In fact, many of them I saw many even celebrating the whole Musk fucking robot thing and making jokes about how they're going to get it to jack them off or whatever the fuck.
Well, because, I mean, the only other really meaningful conversation to have on the left, I think, at this point, is the disparity between growth in, like, CEO wage growth and the lowest worker wage growth. And you see that with the S&P 500 and average wages, how the fucking graph goes like that and stays like that.
Yeah.
That's the conversation you need to be having, right? But nobody can make those political demands or for
As soon as
anything.
as soon as people start losing their jobs in droves and starts getting crazy, you'll see how quickly people forget about identity politics, how quickly people forget about trans, how quickly they forget about the Middle East. It will all leave their brain so fast. They'll really understand who they are, what they are, the context they are in, and how important it is not to alienate the people around you that you need. And that's the thing that fucking annoys the shit out of me about this election, is that it's like America divided into like its little tribes, like its little fucking weird primitive tribal groups, when like a deluge is coming for all of us, every single one of us, if you're not already a millionaire or billionaire anyway. So yes.
Well, there we go.
There
I think
we go.
that's our little like thoughts on the recent crazy stuff that's been going on.
And please go to Diaries as well. I have a video coming, Halloween special this weekend. And if you haven't caught my last one on irony, poisoning, and the devil, go check that out as well. It's reached 14k views, which I'm really happy about. It's a small channel that I've just started, so this is like the first time I've had that kind of burst of views, so it's been really nice. Hopefully that will continue. And yeah, any other announcements?
Go and watch our live show on my Palmer Eldritch channel.
Yes.
In the comments, or in the description even, because it's fucking dope.
And then also we've started Ion Book Club as well. So if you want to gain access to Book Club, and you haven't already, fear not, you can do so by joining us on Patreon, and through that you get access to the Discord. And there are recorded videos of the two previous ones that you missed. We record all of them, so you'll have access to the archive of videos for book club. So if you want to join us reading Jung's Ion, you can do that on Patreon, and through that you can join the Discord. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and listening to us this evening, and we will catch you next week. Goodbye.